Welcome. I'm Halcyon. This is Hug Nation. Today I want to talk about Burning Man panic. Now, Burning Man has a rich history in stories that freak people out. And sometimes it is done with lightness and humor. I remember some of the early things that I heard on Playa was being told about the dark rave, for example, where that if I was instructed, if you just go way out towards the trash fence, it'll look like there's nothing there because it's the dark rave, and just keep going, eventually you'll stumble on the best DJs, the coolest stuff. It's incredible. It's where everyone's going to be there tonight. Yeah, that's a good one. And you got to keep in mind that this is the community that still thinks it's funny to joke about Daft Punk. That being said, the first year that I heard the Daft Punk rumor, it wasn't that Daft Punk's playing at the trash fence. It was that Daft Punk was playing at, I think, like 3:30 and G, something like that, some cross streets in the city. And I fell for it. I figured, why not join this crowd of people? And as we were riding across the Playa, and as you just saw these rows and rows of people, it was kind of like Burn Night, except everybody was going towards this one neighborhood that everyone had heard that Daft Punk was going to be playing. And then once we got there, and there was just tons of people, and the streets were flooded, it was just so hilarious to think about, wait a minute, what's the name of this band? Punked? Daft Punk? Good one! Now, the fact that this continues to be a funny thing year after year after year might be an indication that we have a disorder as a community and that we are a little prone to exaggeration or clinging to the desire to mislead. And that is not made any better by our media. Not our media, by the media, cultural media. Media and news is, as you know, is a reflection of the worst. If there's everything is perfect and one person stubs their toe, the news is bumpy road causes toe stubbing disaster. And so every year, if there's anything that's outside of normal, the media tends to turn that story into the one that gets forwarded. And the way that the media works, once something becomes a story, then that story becomes the story that other businesses pick up, whether it's in an Associated Press article that gets copied around, or if it is just blogs noticing it and trying to bandwagon on anything that's getting people's attention. In fact, there was a time in the year 2008, there was an actual Associated Press headline that said, "Dust disrupts Burning Man." Yes, it was a dusty year. But dust disrupts Burning Man? That's like sunshine disrupts 4th of July weekend. No, it's part of it. But when I got back from the burn, everybody that was not a burner, that knew I was a burner, that was their point of reference. That was the news of the day regarding Burning Man. It was like, oh man, I heard it was horrible. I heard it was just so dusty. I heard it people, it was like, yeah, but I mean, who's telling the story? Who are you listening to? And that's got to be it's such a good reminder that we are a microcosm for the world, and that you got to be aware of where the stories are coming from and what people's intention is. And if the intention is to get views and panic and get people to share, then yeah, we are victims of clickbait exaggeration. A few years ago, we had a crazy bug story, and everybody I knew was like, bugs, there's going to be bugs. We had extra water of the storm that caused all this larva, and now everyone's getting bit. And yes, people that were out there early had an experience with extra bugs. I panicked because of that. I do not do well with bugs, so right before the burn, I went out and got a bunch of bug spray, and I even got a nice pink netting hat so that I could feel that I would not be itching for the entire burn. Now, by the time that we got there, there was trace bugs that congregated around the big lights, but for the most part, it was not a negative experience for anyone. What's that you say? All that worry for nothing? That seems to be a common theme. Now, there tends to be an article that comes out each year that becomes the one that people forward. There was, Silicon Valley elite ruin Burning Man. There was vandals destroy the loving vibe of Burning Man. This year, it's water on the Playa is going to make Burning Man into Water Man, or there's going to be a lake that is never going to. And I don't know about you, but people continually keep asking me, "Is Burning Man going to happen this year? Is Burning Man going to happen this year?" I heard it's just covered in water. And of course, there's been plenty of news articles that will take that information that there is extra water this year, and they have turned that into a story about the sky is falling. Now, the Reno Gazette-Journal reported at the end of last month that the Playa is nearly dry. So, chill. Leave your kayak at home. Still bring some galoshes and preparations in case it does rain, but it's going to be a non-issue as far as the participants are concerned. The current state of the water is within all the natural cycles of nature and Burning Man, and it will not affect the way that we have to set up as participants. You can quote me on that as a licensed geofaker. No, I don't actually have any authority to speak about the weather or geology or water moisture of any kind. And yet, you can still take that to the credit union. The other huge story that people keep forwarding me, especially last week, is the police state and surveillance that is going to turn Burning Man into a George Orwellian nightmare. The headline that everyone keeps sending me is, "Feds turn Burning Man into a police state, announce drug tests for attendees, and mass spying." Pretty good headline. That's not exactly what the article says, and it became such a panic that there was an article that was a response that was written by, on the everfest.com, the Ask the Festival Lawyer column, and he went through what's really going on and what's not, and I recommend checking that out. But basically the gist of it is that the law is in effect at Burning Man, which was no secret to us. And in fact, certain specifications about what will be requirements as far as DUIs was in place last year in terms of all the festival agreements and contracts. So there's nothing actually new that's happened this year. It's just someone took some information from some contract and some wording and blew it out of proportion. The truth is, you can get in trouble for driving on Playa while intoxicated. And guess what? You should! You should not be driving intoxicated on the Playa. There is people all over the place. There are people lying down. There are people who are not in their right mind that are covered in dirt and don't have blinky things on them. If you're in charge of an art car driving around the Playa, I'm sorry, but I am on the side of rational thought and authority that says you should not be intoxicated, not even a little bit. In fact, you won't see me behind the wheel of an art car a mutant vehicle, because that's a responsibility that I'm not willing to take. If you are willing to take that responsibility, then you best be clear-headed. Too much is at stake. If you want to be reckless while on a wheeled vehicle, get a big bike. The worst that you're going to do is knock somebody down, not kill anyone. Please, people. Yeah. Okay, all that being said, they did mention that the article or the amount of, for example, THC marijuana in a system is teeny tiny. So if you think I'm good to drive, if they have adjustable, what's the right term? It was if you're driving erratically or they smell it, they can, pursue action, but they cannot test you without a warrant or without arresting you. So here's the tips, and I'll just read what it said. The best course of action is to refuse all testing unless you are told directly by law enforcement that you must comply. An example thing to say: "Officer, I'm not giving consent to have my blood taken without a warrant. However, I'm not refusing the test if you say it is mandatory." Again, from the festival lawyer says, That's a mouthful if you are not sober, but the point is to not consent to anything. Instead, try to make the officer clarify if this test is mandatory. If it is, you shouldn't resist it or refuse to take it or fight the cops. Fight it later in court instead. So, okay. No need to panic. Plenty of reasons to be cautious. We've talked about this before. Burning Man is no longer a outlaw event under the radar in the middle of the desert. There are other events that are like that, and if that is your desire, you should find one or create one. Burning Man is an absolutely under the magnifying glass policed event that requires us to be at a level of responsibility and law-abidingness that is part of the citizenry of the United States of America and is under all the rules of the local governments, etc. So if that feels like a police state to you, which you could argue it is, true. But Burning Man itself, as we can see at this stage and what has been revealed, there's nothing new saying that it's going to be any worse than it has been in the past. Still, be cautious. Do the right thing. Don't have headlights out. Don't block your license plate. Don't break the speed limit. They've got, the speed limit once you're in the city is it 5 miles an hour? Which is very hard to go, but if you break a simple thing like that, you suddenly are on the radar, possibly literally, but definitely figuratively, of law enforcement. Okay, so the point is, yes, there's all sorts of stories that get spread around. It is part of the culture of Burning Man, which is why you need to make part of the enculturation process with new people the instruction and the teaching to be discerning about what you're told and to be cautious if that is something that is going to cause you stress, but also to be cautious about forwarding and retelling and spreading false information. I'm not a fan of the idea of false information being a part of the fun. A fun false information is before you use the porta potty, you have to curtsy to the Playa gods and knock 3 times and bless whatever it is you leave in the porta potty. Now that's not true, but that would be funny misinformation. Not funny misinformation is I've been leaving my semen on the toilet seats, so make sure that you squat over them all instead of actually sitting down on them. Okay, I did it once. I once left my semen on a seat, but I wiped it down the next day. Next 2, 3, 4 days afterwards, I wiped it down. I'm kidding! I kid! Besides, I've had a vasectomy, so you can't get pregnant from me. Okay, I've gone too far. Edit this in post. The point is, don't panic. Things are going to go wrong way beyond what the news knows about. And when I say wrong, I just mean not according to plan. And that's part of the reason why we go to an event like Burning Man, is to push ourselves, is to put ourselves in a situation we don't have control over and to make it work, to be radically self-reliant and have civic responsibility so that we work with one another to overcome, to fix things, to bolt things down, to put them back up, to make them safe if they're unsafe. Whee! And one of the unsafe things, I'll agree, is driving while intoxicated. So let's make that something that we decide to do as a community, not because we're afraid of being arrested. We good? Excellent. All of my tips and tricks videos are available at lustmonkey.com as well as on the Burning Man Journal /blog/website. See you at home. I will be camped at Pink Heart, which is once again in the 9 o'clock sector. We're at 8 o'clock Esplanade this year. We will have chilled cucumber water 24/7, and we will have vegan coconut milk ice cream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Cannot wait to connect with you, to hug you, to share the magic with you if you're heading to Burning Man this year. If you're not heading to Burning Man this year, well, that should not stop us from sharing love. Boom, boom, boom. I love you.